Good morning, Kevin.
Morning, Bede. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
What's the discussion today on?
What we're going to do is we're going to continue on with what we were talking about last week. Now, last week, if you remember, we were talking about that Swami Dayananda says that there's a confusion centered on ourself. And what this means is that, and we explained how the word confusion, con means together and fuse means poured. We're poured together with various mental and physical states.
Yeah.
And so that our sense of ourself, our self-feeling, is either I'm cold, I'm shivering, I'm hot, that's physical states, or I'm angry, I'm confused, I'm empty, I'm bored. And that all forms of psychological suffering are this confusion being lived. And I think it's an important thing to understand that it's not the confusion isn't in us. We are being the confusion and we are living it.
Is this like self-identity? You are your thinking. You don't think you're having thoughts. You are your thoughts.
Yes, it's like what Swami Dayananda says, you become your thinking and your thinking becomes you. But what I want to say is that in the West, we tend to think that suffering is something that's in us. But what Swami Dayananda sees it is that suffering is what we are being. So we're actually living the suffering. So when you're angry, it's not just a fixed thing, is it?
No.
You know, you're moving. It's a way of being in the world. You are living the anger.
Because is it right? Swami Dayananda talks about the basic conscious person, non-demanding person. That's who's not doesn't have projections on the world or himself or herself.
Well, the basic, what you know, when we're talking about when we are appreciating the presence of God, we are, at the same time we appreciate ourselves in an entirely different way. We appreciate ourselves as a simple conscious person who is at home with themselves and who is also free of insecurity. There's no chopping and changing of mental states, and there's a feeling of security. Now, this also is a way of being in the world. It's not like I've got peace in me. It's not like, what I want to sort of stress here is that we're so used to thinking that, I used to think if only I could, inside me, if I could feel better inside, and I'd battle with states of mind and try to fix myself up. But what's interesting about when we're actually, what he says, being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, it is a transformation in the way we are being in the world. It's not, and this way of being is our sense of identity. So it's not an attitude I have.
It's an attitude you're being.
What Swami Dayananda says that an attitude is the individual. When I talk to him about this, attitude, when he uses the word attitude, he's talking about what you're being. He says it pervades the individual. The attitude is the individual. And you see, so it's extremely important. Normally speaking, we're in a constant chopping and changing of reactive attitudes. For example, if I say to you, what's your name? Automatically the word Kevin pops up, right? You don't choose for it to pop up, it just pops up. The interesting thing about reactive attitudes is that they're not born out of our understanding of what is happening, our awareness of what is happening. They are a reaction a psychological...
They just get triggered.
Sorry?
They just get triggered.
They just get triggered. There are psychological content which is triggered, and we become these attitudes: fearful, angry, sad, bored, empty, lonely. All of these are attitudes. They're ways of being in the world that we live.
And we didn't choose them being triggered or manifesting or anything like that.
No. And the interesting thing is that we need to understand that suffering is actually a way of being. It's not something we have. It's something we are being. It's centered on us. And not only that, suffering is something that we're living.
Dayananda talks about suffering as it takes a bit of effort or a bit of thinking or a bit of doing on the part of the individual suffering. He doesn't deny there's not unpleasant situations, but the actual suffering is a certain type of thinking in response to that unpleasant situation.
Yeah, what he says is that we're never going to be able to change the 4 different categories of experience that are going to come into our life. Experiences that we like, experiences that are better than what we like, experiences that we don't like, and experiences that are opposite to what we like. So we are going to always have comfortable experiences and uncomfortable experiences. The whole point of Vedanta is that what happens is when these experiences happen, what gets triggered is a suffering in relation to those events. And the most important thing here about what he calls graceful acceptance more formally, or being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, is that when we're relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, it is a way of being in the world in which psychologically there is no insecurity, there's no fear, there's no chopping and changing of our mental states, and we're at home with ourselves. Now, this attitude is extraordinary, really, because this attitude, when we're actually abiding in this attitude while living, there is no form of suffering active in us.
Yes, quite a remarkable possibility.
Yes, and it's a possibility that's only available right here, right now, as we are. And what he says is that this attitude of being relaxed in ourselves, or being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, is born out of our understanding of what we mean by what he means by God. In other words, when I become aware of the presence of Ishvara in whatever form he's in, the sights, the sounds, the thoughts, the reactions, and I'm in relationship, I'm living in relationship to Ishvara, I can't help but be relaxed in myself. But you see, once we understand, so to understand and appreciate the presence of Ishvara is to understand and appreciate ourselves in an entirely different way, as a simple, conscious person related to the whole. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, but this is only the beginning, because we now have to learn how to live this. Do you see what I mean? We have to learn how to live it.
Yeah.
And I want to just tell a story that he tells to explain. So he says that there was this cook, and he was a cook, you know, he would do cooking.
Yeah.
So he was a cook, and that's what his being was. He cooked. And one day he wanted to learn how to sing. So he started to practice. He started to learn how to sing. So while he was cooking, he'd sing, and then he'd make mistakes, and he'd learn how to sing, and and eventually, because he kept practicing, eventually he became a professional singer, a famous opera singer.
Mm.
And then what happened was he went back to the restaurant and he wanted to do some cooking again. So there he was in the restaurant singing while he was cooking.
Mm.
And then a guest said to the restaurateur, isn't that cook a famous singer? And the restaurateur said, no, that is a famous singer who is cooking.
Mm.
Now, I want to explain what Swami Dayananda means by learning.
Mm.
You see, our center of gravity, we have a psychological center of gravity. Our center of gravity is being a reacting, resisting person. That's essentially what we normally are. This is our tendency when we start Vedanta.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a little bit like, I'm not going to use any Sanskrit words, but it's basically based on inertia. It's just simply, like if you pull out a plug and then the water just goes into the plug, goes down the plug. It's like there's no conscious effort there. There's not. It just simply it's natural tendency, and we normally just go for a ride when it comes to our reactivity or our suffering. We've just been carried by it passively. Even when we're angry, we're just being carried by it. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, then, so what our teachers tell us, we need to learn to live a life of karma yoga and dharma, don't we? We need to learn to live. And what Swami Dayananda says is that we have two things. We have the wisdom. Now, the wisdom in this sense does not mean theoretical knowledge of Vedanta. What the wisdom is in Vedanta, wisdom is being yourself. In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Swami Dayananda makes it very clear that a wise person is simply being himself and feeling secure in himself because of what he is, without external props. Now, I don't know what to be wise in that absolute sense means. However, we first of all come to an appreciation of what it means to be wise in a relative sense. And this being wise in a relative sense is here we are, we're resting in the lap of Ishvara. We're feeling psychologically, we're not chopping and changing mental states, but there's a feeling of sameness. There's an absence of fear. We feel secure. And we feel at home with ourselves. Now, that's what Swami Dayananda means by wisdom. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the big question is here we need to know, well, what do we mean by learning to live the wisdom? Well, we have to live this wisdom. In other words, another way of saying this is that we have to be relaxed in the lap of Ishvara while performing our daily tasks.
Yeah.
This is living the wisdom. See, normally we live our reactivity, we live our suffering.
Chopping and changing. When things are going our way, we're elated, and when things aren't going our way, we're deflated, and really we're just what we normally call happiness, ego inflation, and we don't see any of this.
No, and it's more like that. Our psychological content just gets triggered, and it lives us. Actually, we're not free.
No.
Okay, we experience ourselves as completely determined. Now, so what happens is that we need to learn, and we're going to learn. Now we have a juxtaposition. We now, you see, once we understand, we're introduced to what God is in the sense that Swami Dayananda means it, and we come to this new appreciation of ourselves where we're relaxed in ourselves as ourselves, we now can see the difference between being caught up not being that,
yes,
and being that. Now for the first time we actually have choice.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
We have choice. Now, the attitude isn't created by our choice, but once we understand what the choice is, we can shift into this attitude when we see that we haven't been this attitude.
Yes.
The moment I recognize I'm not being this attitude, I can go, oh, and I can shift into this attitude.
Yeah.
Okay? And remember what we mean. To be relaxed and composed in ourselves is to be alive to facts. To be alive to facts is to be composed in ourselves. So to be aware of Ishvara is to be aware of ourselves. It's simultaneous.
Yes, I think Dayananda talks about them as one and the same.
Yes, it's particularly in Action Reaction. Now, that book. But you see, what's important here is that I used to look for stability in myself. Can you believe that? I thought, when am I ever going to get it together? And I would try and find or try and change myself so I could feel stable in myself. Now, through Swami Dayananda, what I've learned is there's only one stable point in the life, and that is the ever-abiding presence of God. That's what's stable. I'm not stable. However, when I appreciate the presence of God and abide in that appreciation, I become stable. I haven't done anything to myself.
No.
Okay, so the starting point for Swami Dayananda is reality, not me. Okay?
Yeah.
And he uses the term that we're either rooted in ourselves, or we're rooted in God. And this is a fundamental discrimination, if you like. It's not the ultimate discrimination of what's eternal or what's unchanging and what's changing. Okay, that's further on. But this fundamental recognition of what I am like when I'm rooted in God, and what I'm like when I'm rooted in myself. Now, I've been rooted in myself most of the time, all of the time. My whole past history is being rooted in myself. Now, this whole idea that I can suddenly go, because I have an epiphany, I'm the self, that I'm released from this being rooted in myself, is nonsense.
Yes.
There has to be what Swami Dayananda says, a process of growth. So what happens is you've got inertia on one side here. Okay. Then you've got, so here I am as I'm a human being who's mainly reactive, learning how to live a life of Dharma, learning how to be a devotee. The end game is to be a devotee who is living.
So this is where it comes back to that story of the singer and the cook learning to sing.
Yes.
He's initially a reactive individual.
Well, he's a cook.
Yes, cook.
That's what he is. He's a cook.
But the analogy is initially we're a reactive individual determined by our psychology.
Yes.
Learning to be a devotee, learning to live the wisdom.
Yes.
Then we become a devotee. At some point, when the devotee, we are being a devotee that pervades all the roles.
Yes, we're a devotee who is living. See, living is something you do. Okay?
Yeah.
So the thing is that And you see, so here we are. Our natural tendency is to be a reactive, chopping and changing individual. There's no sameness. Then on the other side, we have being a devotee who is living, being a conscious person who is living, who wants to do what needs to be done. Now that's what they mean by spontaneous. So you've got inertia on one side and you've got spontaneous on the other. You're being yourself, and being yourself means that you're spontaneously loving without any form of deliberation or effort. No active will necessary. You're spontaneous. So you're spontaneously loving. In other words, you are being accepting. That's what Swami Dayananda means by love. And you're spontaneously caring. You're living a life of Dharma. But that living is spontaneous. It's just an expression of what you are. So here you've got, on one side, you have this spontaneity. On the other side, you've got this inertia. So what do you got to bring in the middle? Conscious doing, activity. Does that make sense? That's it. We have to, we practice living, and this brings about a change. What frees us from inertia, first of all, is activity. Okay, it's like when you learn to play a piano. It's very awkward when you first start playing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you keep going, and then you have moments of spontaneity. You're doing it unthinkingly, and then you come back again and you have to correct.
Yes.
So this learning it's not a book learning. It's learning to live. It's learning to live in an entirely new way, a way of living in which there is no insecurity and chopping and changing of mental states, and in which I'm at home with myself. And this way of living, I maintain, I establish myself in it, and remain in it in the face of experiences that I like, experiences that are more than what I like, experiences that are not what I like, and experiences that are the opposite to what I like.
Or completely different.
Sorry?
Or completely different to what you expected.
Yeah. So when I'm living like this, I'm remaining the same in the front of experiences. But the important thing here is that I'm being free psychologically while living. That's the most important part here.
Yeah.
Being free while living, which is the definition of moksha.
So this is where I think Swami Dayananda says, in this being free, there's an inner leisure where you don't have this angst of trying to be happy by doing things or getting something or getting a particular result. You're seeking a result, but you're not doing it for your happiness.
Yeah, it's like a carpenter building a house. He's got to keep building the house. He can either build the house, and while he's building the house, he can be miserable and suffering, or he can be building the house, but he can be relaxing himself, being himself while he's building the house.
Yeah.
Okay, the job has to get done. You still have duties.
Yeah.
But the difference is that your way of being in the world is different, and you're learning how to live fully and wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I like that expression, living wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it's like you imagine the singer who's cooking. He's fully singing, but he's being himself while cooking. So it's not that the cooking doesn't interrupt it.
No.
Like sometimes when I have to do the dishes, it's like, oh God, I have to do the dishes, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is that I'm not doing the dishes being relaxed in myself as myself. I'm actually thinking that I'm unhappy because I have to do the dishes.
Yeah.
To give a very mundane example. But the thing is that there is absolutely no way to go from inertia to spontaneity without knowingly living the wisdom. Okay? It's just not possible.
Yeah. I think that's right.
And you see, it's very, very important to this whole area. You see, if we can't have a transformed life unless we're being different from what we've normally been.
No,
and it's not an epiphany inside me. It's not, oh, I'm the self. No. I'm consciousness. No. It is actually a way of living in which I am conscious. Now, so here we are. What we want to do now is we want to be able to learn to live our life in an entirely different way, in which there is no insecurity, meaning no fear and no chopping and changing of mental states, and in which we're at home with ourselves. So we're tracking there so far?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is what we mean by practice. Okay. Swami Dayananda says there's two things. There's the wisdom, but then we must learn to live the wisdom. And the basis of this wisdom is our understanding of what God is.
Yeah.
Because then we appreciate ourselves as secure and at home with ourselves. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, would you like to know what it means to be together as a person, Kevin?
Absolutely, Bede.
Okay. Now, I'm just going to read, this is the book, Value of Values. I'm going to read something here which is very, very interesting. He says here, when I am split, I cannot fully enjoy anything. I cannot enjoy food unless the mind is on the food. The relationship between thinker and doer perhaps is more recognized in the Indian culture traditions than it is in the West. He's been kind there.
Yes.
In India, the mother instructs the child, eat and don't talk. When you are eating, eat. Talk later. In the West, talking is mixed with eating. Only the first spoonful of the food is appreciated. The rest of the eating becomes mechanical. We eat and talk, and then when we find that we cannot eat anymore, we infer that the meal was good and that we've eaten a sufficient amount. Now, this is the important part. The thinker was not present while eating, being too busy thinking what was to be said next. This kind of eating is mechanical and often uncontrolled, whereas eating when the thinker is there alongside can become an enjoyable ritual. The quality of my life always suffers when I become split. To appreciate the beauty of life, really to be available to enjoy its comforts, I need to be together. Together is a good Western expression which shows an intuitive appreciation of the problem of split. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to just paraphrase this a little bit. So instead of saying when you are eating, eat. When you are living, live. Okay? Now, have you ever been doing the dishes but your mind is somewhere else?
Yes, I have, Bede.
Now, when your mind is somewhere else, are you relaxed in yourself as yourself?
No, I suspect if I reflect back on many occasions, I'm looking for some sort of resolve some unhappiness or trying to get some happiness from some.
Right.
Yep.
Now, there's a very interesting point here that he brings up, first of all, that I must bring up. He has a principle called the basis of reaction is non-acceptance of a fact. Now, this is very important. You see, in a lot of spiritual books, they talk about, getting rid of egoism and, our self-obsession and all of this stuff. Have you seen books that talk about that?
Yeah.
So then people make efforts. So the ego tries to get rid of the ego, which is a little bit difficult.
I don't think that's possible.
Well, it's more ego, isn't it?
Yes.
But how Swami Dayananda sees it, that human egoism, this self-obsession with ourself, me, myself, Bede, and I, there's quite a few of us here, is a reaction. The basis of all suffering is a reaction, resisting.
Not being alive to facts.
Yes, but you see, if I'm not at home with myself, I won't be alive with my sex because I'll be wanting to be something different.
Yes.
Okay? So when I'm being at home with myself, I find myself being accepting.
Yeah.
Then I can be with myself while I'm living. That's the condition. Otherwise, I'll be reacting because I'll be resisting.
Yeah.
So when I understand that the source of my happiness is being related to Ishvara, does that make sense? Then I haven't got the expectation that the world's going to give me happiness or take it away.
Because you already resolved that angst.
I'm already happy. See, if I'm happy with being myself, I won't have a craving to be something different. I won't have these binding desires. And then, because once I've got binding desires, the world disagrees with them. I might have a binding desire to be approved of, and then someone rejects me. I might have a binding desire to be important, and then someone treats me like I'm not important. I might have a binding desire to have material possessions as badges of status, and I haven't got enough. But if I'm truly at home with myself, what happens is this neutralizes the binding effects of the desires. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you're not incessantly trying to control people, situations, and events.
Yes, because my happiness and security aren't at stake. And so as far as Swami Dayananda is concerned, the emphasis actually has to be me being at home with myself.
Yes.
Because if I'm at home with myself, I can't help but, by default, be aware and awake to the moment.
And that's born of the understanding of what God is.
Yes.
In Swami Dayananda's, how he means it.
Yes. It's the abiding in the appreciation of the presence of Ishvara while living. So when I'm being myself, relaxed in myself, I can't help but be alive to facts. And these facts are the presence of Ishvara. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, so what we want to do is we want to practice living the wisdom. Now, one thing that that you can that becomes very clear is that, have you ever been walking down to the shop and your mind's been somewhere else, and so in actual fact you weren't there as a conscious person?
I've even driven like that, indeed.
Right. So what happens is that, like what he says, instead of eating while you're eating, what happens is you can walk to the shop, you can be thinking of other things. So you as a thinker are completely isolated from your doing. Now, living means functioning, doesn't it? Doing.
Yes.
The substrate of your life is your living is your doing. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, doing is the only thing that we can do. Because we can't do seeing. If I open my eyes, if I've got my eyes closed and I open them up, can I help but see you?
No.
It's not part of my choice. It's seeing, listening, tasting, touching. They are nothing to do with my choice.
They're not. You don't do them. We might think that we do them, but
But we do action, can't we?
Yes.
Now, but when I'm walking down the shop,
Mm.
am I doing that walking if I'm not there, or is it just happening mechanically by itself?
Just happening by itself.
Just happening by itself, like what he says here. He said, the thinker was not present while eating. Okay?
Yeah.
So what happens is that here I am, you know, when he says that you're only living when you're alive to facts. So when am I actually living if I walk down to the shop and my mind is caught up in and that's a resistance to facts, the very fact that I don't want to be here. I find it more entertaining to be caught up in other things, right?
No, I think that's, I think you're living in your own world. I think
That's exactly right.
I think the Bible seems to refer to it as a dog going back to its vomit. Sorry to say that.
I can't remember that one. Sounds bad. But anyway, so what happens is, here I am. I'm walking down to the shop, but I'm not there.
Yeah.
So I'm actually not living. I'm what Swami Dayananda calls a somnambulist. I'm a sleepwalker. I'm not aware that I'm walking.
Yeah.
I'm not even aware that I'm daydreaming.
You think you're conscious, don't you, in that situation?
Well, you don't even know you're not conscious. So there's no awareness that the fact is that there's no awareness of the fact that you're not living. Now, because you've done your morning meditation and you've spent about half an hour just simply appreciating the presence of Ishvara, and you're becoming very familiar with yourself as a simple conscious being resting in the lap of Ishvara. And I've got to go down to the IGA because Sylvia's asked me to go and pick up some avocados or something, right? So here I am, is that I understand, and I suddenly go, I notice that my commitment is to learn to live. Okay? Learn to live wholeheartedly, to live and to perform action with this proper attitude. So to perform action with the attitude of being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara.
Yeah.
Now this is very interesting. So here I am, is that what I do is I knowingly and deliberately use my will to come back, to shift into the lap of Ishvara and to perform the action of walking with this attitude. Okay?
Yeah.
And the thing is, you notice that when you have, this attitude of being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, it's like kind of melting into the presence of what is, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's a sort of a melting. So here you are. And so here I am, I'm going to now perform the action of walking. Because if I cease to be relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, I cease to be living, actually. Okay? So here I am. What happens is, I restrict, so basically I'm going to completely, in one sense, do what I'm doing with this attitude. So I'm not going to be thinking about other things or whatever. I'm just going to be mainly concentrating on being relaxed in the lap. So that relaxed feeling, I'm going to dwell in and abide in that relaxed feeling while I open the door. So I open the door. I go through the door. I'm going down the steps. I'm not trying to quieten my mind. I'm just simply, my main thing is to be relaxed. And when I'm relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, you notice how the mind-body split comes together, doesn't it? That he talks about.
You feel at home in yourself.
In yourself, and also the action you're doing. So you're actually with the action you're doing. If you're just sitting here, you're relaxed while you're sitting.
You find yourself a conscious being, so you're available to what is.
Yes, but I want to just concentrate on this coming together. So here I am. when I'm aware of the presence of Ishvara, I'm relaxed in myself, and if I happen to be sitting, what happens is my mind and my sitting come together, don't they?
Yeah.
There's a feeling of what Swami Dayananda calls a wholeness. So here I am, I'm abiding in this relaxation while I'm performing the action. I'm walking down the stairs and I walk down the road. Now, what you notice is, because you're in yourself relaxed while walking, you're also seeing and listening and hearing. You're awake to the moment, but you're awake to the moment by being yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then suddenly you have a thought about something and you're away with the fairies.
Yeah.
So you're no longer, like what he says, awake alongside what's happening. So that's okay. Now, what's important is not that fact. Oh my goodness. Okay?
Yeah.
What's important is the recognition of, the actual seeing, I've actually moved away from the lap of Ishvara into myself. I've moved away from being rooted in God to being rooted in myself. And I go, so what do? I come back. That's all. I come back to the practice. I come back to living the wisdom. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I go to the shop, do you know what I mean? And then I meet someone and I start talking. Suddenly, what happens? I can lose. You see, I can either talk to the person from the attitude, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Of being relaxed in myself, or because I'm a bit of a talker, I can get very easily lost in talking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So basically, I'm no longer aware of what I'm doing. Okay? I'm no longer alive to facts. And then when I say goodbye, then I suddenly come back to my practice and I go, But the point of the matter is that this practice of karma yoga is practicing living the wisdom. It's actually a practice of living your life in the fullest sense of the word. It's not an imposition. It's not like I'm trying to do something to get something. I'm not trying to do this so that in the future my mind will be pure. I'm actually living the purity of mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. People might have this idea when you're saying you're relaxed in the lap of Ishvara that you're all knowing, but that's not. You're just alive to facts. You just find yourself a conscious person who's not seeking a happiness in doing things. You already feel relaxed.
Relatively happy already, yes.
Yeah.
This whole idea of knowing everything is ridiculous. Being a wise person has nothing to do with knowing lots of stuff. Being wise, he's quite clear on it. Being wise is being at home with yourself by virtue of what you are. The total vision is a person who is actually has absolutely no dependence on anything in order for them to be happy. Okay? I'm not like that. Okay? So, and what happens is that as we keep practicing living, okay? Now, I'm only going to be dealing with just this morning, I'm only dealing with one side of the coin. There's two sides of the coin. There is learning to live in this way of being. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That basically involves graceful acceptance. Okay, being at home with myself. Because this puts me into the world as it is. But what I do on a moment-by-moment basis in terms of other people is what keeps me in harmony with what is, which is Dharma, which we're going to go into next time. But what I mainly want to say here is that it's extremely important to resolve this mind-body split. Does that make sense? So that the basis of our life becomes doing what we're doing while we're doing it, whilst being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara. And every moment we can practice this. So that because once we know what this attitude is, once we become familiar with, and this attitude is being ourself. It's not like I've got this attitude. It's an attitude of being myself and relaxed in myself as myself. It's not like something I'm trying to get or do.
Yeah.
So because the whole point, and the thing too is that when I'm resting in the lap of Ishvara while I'm living, performing action, right?
Yeah.
The self-confusion is not there. I haven't become confused with my imagination. I haven't become confused with my thoughts. I haven't become confused with my feelings. Because what happens is in the lap of Ishvara, you are being yourself. So you're appreciating yourself as distinct from the thoughts, the feelings, the physiological reactions, and the actions. Now, this is extremely important. And this has got nothing to do with, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my body, it's not like that. This is living in appreciation of yourself as a conscious person, distinct from thoughts, feelings, physiological reactions, and actions. See, Swami Dayananda says the whole point of Vedanta is to understand that you're more than just thinking, feelings, physiological reactions, and actions.
Yes.
It's a very practical thing. And when he talks about remaining the same, now it's an extraordinary thing. Let's say, for example, your spouse says or does something you don't like. Does that ever happen to you, Kevin?
Yes, Bede.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Now, this is what you use the word the coalface. This is where the coalface comes in. Okay, because when people say and do something that we don't like, have you noticed that suddenly you can cease to be relaxed in the lap of Ishvara and you become a reaction?
Yes, become an unhappy person.
You become an annoyed person. So the annoyance and you become one and the same. And once the annoyance and you become one and the same, you cannot help but dramatize it with saying certain things in terse ways. Does that make sense? Basically being an idiot. Do you know what I mean?
Even if I've got the common sense to keep my mouth shut, I'm still, all my thoughts are conforming to being an annoyed person. My body is either despondent or goes for a walk in the garden.
Yes, but do you notice how the fundamental thing is you become a resistor?
Yeah.
So you're no longer at home with yourself. Now, the moment you say, the moment you actually see that, you can then shift back into the lap of Ishvara.
Yeah.
And then you cease to be that. Now, this is the whole practice of karma yoga. It is to live a way of life in which we're not becoming the mind, sense, body complex.
Yeah.
We're not becoming our thoughts, we're not becoming our feelings, we're not becoming our physiological reactions, or we're not becoming our actions.
What's amazing is when you do shift your attention so the presence of reality in whatever form it's taking does fill the mind, all of this being annoyed or whatever form it's taken, being bored, all of that resolves itself in an instant.
That's very interesting.
With none of my doing.
Yes, the resolution of it is always right here, right now, as I am. That this one attitude of being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara is the attitude, because it's conscious, in which all the other reactive attitudes, which are our suffering, resolve, relatively speaking.
I never would have thought what I previously thought was mundane, trees, paths, roads, cars, buildings, is seen in the right light as the presence of reality taking various forms.
Yes.
is a godsend.
Well, yes, it certainly is a very, it's certainly a wonderful vision that we're actually living in the ocean of presence, the presence of God, yes, in the form of this universe. Now, let's say you notice that you're a little bit niggly because you don't want to do the dishes.
Yep.
As soon as you notice that, you can then shift back into being relaxed in yourself. And what's happening is that you're just simply, and you're just doing what you're doing. Your hand reaches out for the thing and you scrub it like this. And you're doing it with this inner relaxation that Swami Dayananda talks about. Suddenly, the person who's unhappy because they have to do something they don't want, that person disappears. You as that disappears.
Yes.
But what I want to stress here is this. Unless we commit to the practice of karma yoga, commit to performing action with proper attitude. And remember what we said, when I walk to the shop and my mind is somewhere else, am I performing action or is it just happening by itself?
Just happening by itself. You're a
Yes.
sleepwalker.
Right. So what we want to do is we want to perform action. It's a big thing to perform action. So when I'm performing action with proper attitude, I'm actually living.
Now, you're not concerned when you miss the mark at all, are you?
Not at all.
Simply, that's like the weather. You just simply, it's understandable. You've been practicing it for, being a sleepwalker we've been practicing it most of our lives. So
we haven't been practicing it.
We're just being a sleepwalker.
We're unknowingly being a sleepwalker, yeah.
And so necessarily it's to recognize that you're going to have to make some effort of continual shifting the attention back to where you find yourself relaxed.
You have to knowingly live the wisdom again and again. And it's you don't have there's no self-condemnation here because you're learning. You're learning.
Yeah.
You're learning how to live. Now, next time we'll go into this more, but basically we need to be a conscious doer, first of all. See, if you look at the whole scheme, which the second part we'll deal with, is that we have to be a conscious doer, relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, looking at and responding to everything in the light of Dharma. This is a total picture.
Yeah.
This is what living really means. And it's in this way of life that's prescribed in the Gita. In this very life itself, in this way of life, we find ourselves being free. When we're not living like this, there is no hope. Not even God can help us, Swami Dayananda says, because when we're not being like this, we are caught up in our own world.
We're enclosed as a psychological entity, which is supposed to be a past, and just constantly being and that past is constantly being triggered.
Constantly. There's no living.
No.
It's like you walk down to the shop, you're not even doing. The doing's happening by itself. You know how he says you're eating the food and it's all just happening by itself.
Yeah.
So we're talking about that the idea that some modern Vedantins think, you have this epiphany about yourself, and then from that point on, everything's honky-dory.
No.
Ridiculous. What?
It'll always be a gradual thing.
The preparation, that what happens is that we, in order to be able to receive the total vision of Vedanta, in the Gita is to do two things: self-mastery and self-knowledge. There is no self-knowledge without self-mastery. And self-mastery is being a conscious doer, being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, looking at and responding to everything in the light of Dharma. Now, we eventually want this to be spontaneous. In other words, without thinking, without any action of the will. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what spontaneity means. They have this word called sattva, right? That you go from the inertia, which is called tamasic.
Yeah.
That's what we are. We're full of tamasic energy. That's all we are. Then we've got to become. Then there's this sattva, which is this very light, spontaneous, clear clarity. But Swami Dayananda says you have to be rajistic. You've got to shift from being full of inertia. You've got to consciously do. Consciously do.
Yeah.
Get into doing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then there's spontaneity. The idea that you can't, he says that growth is self-initiated. Self-initiated. It doesn't happen by itself.
No.
And it doesn't happen by reading books. The only thing that produces growth in a human being is the action of conscious doing while being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, looking at and responding to everything in the light of Dharma. This is the vehicle. And this is the only thing that goes on the scoreboard. There's nothing else that goes on the scoreboard. And the wonderful thing is, this practice of karma yoga and Dharma is always available right here, right now, as I am. I might be sitting here having a cup of tea. And the whole quality of having a cup of tea changes. I'm a conscious doer. I pick up the cup.
Can I ask a question? I know it's silly, but when you say a conscious doer, you're not talking about, this mindfulness,
No, because this thing is that the basis of this is being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara.
It's born of the vision of God.
Yes, it's being relaxed in the lap of Ishvara. It's a feeling of relaxation. Because you're relaxed, there's no reaction. So you're doing. I'm lifting the cup to my mouth while abiding in this relaxation. I don't have to worry about being mindful. I'm going to be aware anyway.
You find yourself conscious, but you didn't do the becoming conscious. It's just by virtue of this acceptance.
When I'm relaxed in the lap of Ishvara, all my senses open up anyway. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, so it's quite different to mind.
You're not trying to be mindful. You're not practicing to be mindful. The whole point of Swami Dayananda's teaching is it's a teaching that's centered on the understanding of God and being related to God, which means being related to the presence of what is. You can't be related to the presence of what is unless you're relaxed in yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when you're related to God, you can't help but be relaxed. When you're related to what is, you find yourself being relaxed in yourself. And then what you're doing is that from that attitude of being relaxed, I'm performing this action while being relaxed in his lap. And so I'm living my life from this attitude. And this is our refuge. This is what Swami Dayananda means. We make God our refuge.
Yes.
Everything else, every other door closes. This is the only door.
Yeah.
And this is the only thing that actually counts. All of the teaching, all of the listening to the talks, reading the book, all of this has to lead to this. Does that make sense?
Yes, because it only becomes part of your being when you're living it. It may be useful to listen. It's essential to listen, teach, and to read Swami Dayananda's books. It's very useful. But it's only becomes more real and available to me as in the practice of living consciously. He said
that the practice of resting in Ishvara's laps, which by default makes us conscious. But what he says is that what was I going to say? I've just lost my train of thought. He says Vedanta is you.
Yes.
He says Vedanta is you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because normally, you see, that's what's very interesting about the Bhagavad Gita. It's called the Song of God.
Mm.
It's like God is singing to us, calling us back to himself.
Yes.
Normally we live in ourself.
Mm.
We're lost in ourself. We're actually lost in ourself. This is the darkness or ignorance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this practice of karma yoga and the practice of dharma is actually living in the world as it is. And it's actually genuinely learning to live my life. It's not something, I'm not trying to get anywhere.
No.
My interest is, I notice right here, right now, as I am, I've been lost in with the fairies, away with the fairies.
Yeah.
So what I do is I just come back to resting in his lap, which is a psychophysical feeling. Does that make sense? It's a relaxed feeling that pervades every aspect of me. So I'm in
this that's the validation of whether you understand what's being spoken about, isn't it?
If you don't know what this feeling of relaxation is, you have not yet understood what Swami Dayananda means by God. Okay? So, and this is the whole game. I can't stress this enough. The only thing that's going to make a change in your life is living a life of karma yoga and living a life of dharma. This is the vehicle that transforms us psychologically. There is no other.
Yes, because Swami Dayananda talks about two things in terms of preparing an individual for Vedanta. One is dealing with the psychological, and then it's dealing with just the fact that you think you're an object, or self-ignorance, isn't it?
So go again?
Oh, Swami Dayananda talks about needing to deal with two things in preparation for the individual to be available for the teaching. One is dealing with the psychological, and then the second is sort of not the ignorance of thinking you're an object or
That's the same. There's not two things actually. The self-objectification is that you've noticed that when you're actually resting in the lap of Ishvara, you are being yourself.
Yeah.
You're not thinking of yourself as a certain kind of person, so there's no thinking about yourself. You're not perceiving yourself as an object, because what you are being is not perceptible with the senses. It's also not describable because you're not being a thing. So you become unconfused. And so in other words, karma yoga and dharma is being unconfused while living.
Yes.
Because the confusion is no longer there. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, Kevin.
I find it amazing. Arjuna had great function. He was a famous warrior, and yet he didn't have this knowledge, even though he would have been a religious person prior to this as well. It's amazing that.
Well, that's an important point. The teaching of Vedanta is that a person might be, the fact of the matter was, even though that functionally in life, Arjuna was a really cool dude, right? The thing is that he needed to be taught what karma yoga was. Because this is living the wisdom.
Yes.
And living the wisdom is the same as being yourself while living. It's not, being yourself is not different from the wisdom in Vedanta. But the important thing is that we have to establish ourselves in being ourselves while living in the face of various chopping and changing of appearances. And that's the challenge. And without this commitment, without this constantly coming back and living this life of karma yoga and dharma, there is no transformation psychologically. You might as well pack up and go home. Okay?
Okay. Thanks, Bede.
Thank you. Bye-bye.